What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? We got episode 22 of the Be Great podcast. Week 9 in the books. We're on to week 10. Let's just go ahead, get right into it. We'll go over my game picks for the third week in a row. I only missed one game. I just refused to get undefeated, but it is what it is. But we'll go through it. I picked USC to beat Rutgers. USC beat Rutgers. Who cares? Nobody. On Saturday, Notre Dame absolutely took Navy to the woodshed. I hate that for Navy. I kind of figured it was going to happen, but you still hate to see it. But still a really good season so far for Navy. And it was a good win for Notre Dame. We know what? We'll talk about Nebraska, Ohio State at the end. We'll get to that at the end because I got a lot to say. Washington at Indiana. A lot of people were so worried about Curtis Rourke not being there. I really wasn't that worried because, like I said, I watched the Indiana spring game. Taven Jackson looked really good, and I had faith in the kid, and he played fine. And I think Indiana will be able to tread water until Curtis Rourke gets back, which may be this week, maybe next week. We'll see. But it was a good win for Indiana. BYU at UCF. I was worried for BYU going all the way to Florida to play UCF. UCF can be one of those tricky teams. They can come up and beat some people, but UCF has been spiraling. They continue to spiral. I picked BYU to win, and BYU continues to look really good, really impressive in the Big 12. Missouri, Alabama. It's hard to take a lot away from Missouri, Alabama with Brady Cook. Clearly was never at any point 100% in that game. Missouri's been disappointing this year. It doesn't make me any more impressed with Alabama, really. Don't get it twisted. I think you kind of just have to look at the Alabama LSU game to tell you everything you're going to need to know. Um, that game's going to be massive for both LSU and Alabama. Illinois at Oregon. Oregon with another good win against a solid Big Ten team. Oregon just continues to look good, continues to look impressive, and they just got to keep doing that. And they should, I think, they should finish the regular season undefeated, but we'll see. Texas versus Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is just one of those, they're one of those chippy teams, man. They just fight. They fight and they fight. They make you work for the win. They're not just gonna. You can't just show up and get a freebie against Vanderbilt this year. That's just not going to happen. Texas continues to look sus on offense. They continue to look suspect, and they got to get it figured out. They got to get it figured out because that Texas A&M game at the end of the season is looking harder and harder as the season goes on, and they got to figure out this offense. It was not good in the Georgia game, and it was not very good in the Vanderbilt game. Penn State survives Wisconsin. We'll see about the status of Drew Aller in the Ohio State game. Ohio State might get blessed with Drew Aller not playing, but honestly, if Drew Aller was playing, I still think I'd pick Ohio State because Penn State has been one of the more overrated teams to me this season. I mean, they're ranked in the top 5. They're not a top 5 football team. I'm sorry. I can name 5 teams better than Penn State off the top of my head easily. Okay? That's a fact. All right. Oregon's better than Penn State. Ohio State is better than Penn State. Georgia's better than Penn State. Texas is better than Penn State. I would say Tennessee is better than Penn State. That's 5 right there. I mean, Penn State is not good enough offensively. They're just not. Their defense is solid, but I don't think it's going to be enough against really good teams. LSU, Texas A&M. I just LSU is just one of those teams that just annoy me. They just annoy me. They can't get out of their own way. They had such a good first half, and then the second half, it's like they forgot how to play football. Honestly, like that's how it looked. Garrett Nussmeier threw an interception. I mean, it was a horrible, horrible interception. Like it was just terrible. One of the worst I've ever seen. Not okay. Maybe that's a little much. It was bad. A horrible decision. You can't throw that ball, but he does, and it ends up being a pick. And that just and from that moment forward, they were killed. And then you had the mishap on the field goal. I mean, those types of things will lose you football games against good teams, and it continues to happen to this LSU team. And I just don't understand it. This team is too good to be losing. Texas A&M, similar to Penn State, is being very overrated as well. LSU has been their hardest test in the SEC, and LSU kind of just fell apart. To be quite honest with you, Texas A&M to me is still not very impressive. I'm not scared to go up against Texas A&M. Now, I like Mike Elko, and I think they have a bright future because of Mike Elko. But this year, I'm not frightened by Texas A&M. And LSU has got to get it together, and they got to win out. At this point, they have to win out. So that Alabama game has become a must-win for both teams. Real quick, I don't edit these podcasts. I just kind of just do it and then upload it. My laptop is about to die. I'm going to grab the charger that's right next to me real quick and plug it in if you will give me like a minute. Alrighty. See, that was actually probably less than a minute. There we go. All right. But yeah, just not good enough from LSU. Not good enough at all. Now, let's get to Ohio State, Nebraska. So, what did I say? What did I say after the Georgia Texas game? What did a lot of people say after the Georgia Texas game? What did Kirby Smart himself say? That what the refs did, overturning the call after the fans threw water bottles and beer cans onto the field, and then overturning it, that would start a bad precedent. And lo and behold, what happens in Columbus, Ohio on Saturday? Ohio State gets a call go against them that they don't like, and like the classless fan base that they are, it should shock no one. They throw stuff on the field. Now, they didn't get the same result because at least those refs had the decency to not, uh, let's see, how should I put this? To not reward crybabies that throw temper tantrums. But they still end up winning the game. And they once again do not look good against a far inferior opponent. And it should shock absolutely nobody. And I'll tell you this, I've said it 1,000 times about this team, and I will continue to say it until people start seeing the truth. They are soft on the offensive line. They are soft on the defensive line. And guess what? They're soft on the line of scrimmage every single season. That's been their downfall. You cannot win a national championship if you are not good enough in the trenches, because that's where it matters most, other than the quarterback. You just won't. They're soft on the defensive line, soft on the offensive line. And it continues to show that not the defensive line, that offensive line for Ohio State got absolutely pushed around by Nebraska. I'll just repeat that. And don't let anyone fool you and say, oh, Nebraska's better than everyone thought they were. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're exactly what we think they are. They are mid. And Ohio State was very close to losing. very close. And it worries me. Well, it doesn't worry me because I don't like them, but it should worry Ohio State fans that they look so soft on the line of scrimmage. Because are you going to beat Oregon when you face them in the Big Ten championship? It's what I predicted, but I feel less and less confident about it as the weeks go on. Or are you going to do well against a heavy run team? Because you know who is a heavy run team? Michigan. Now, don't get it twisted. I don't think you'll lose to Michigan. But then again, I've thought that in the past. And Michigan's had your number recently. And they've been a heavy run team and are going to continue to be a heavy run team. And with your line of scrimmage being soft as Charmin, I don't know how confident I feel in you being able to successfully stop a good run game. But I'm not sure if Michigan has a good run game. But I mean, they beat Michigan State, but that's not necessarily that much of an accomplishment. But for them this season, it kind of is. Because if they would have lost that game, there's no way they would be making a bowl game. But and it should surprise no one, by the way. If there was going to be any fan base that was going to follow in Texas's footsteps, it's one of two fan bases: Alabama's or Ohio State's. We all know this. We all know this. I mean, when you think classless fan bases, Ohio State immediately comes up in the top five, at least. Michigan's in there. Tennessee's in there. Texas. Honestly, I didn't think Texas was in that grouping, but they are now. They are now. You know, my brother-in-law was at that game. I should ask him if he threw a water bottle. I wonder if he was he the one who started it. I'll have to investigate. I'll give you further details on Friday, if after Halloween. I think I'll see him on Halloween. Maybe I should ask him if he's the one who started it. I'll have to investigate further and see what he. I'm sure he'll come up with some lame excuse because that's what he does. But I should still investigate. It'd be interesting if he says he was the one who started it. What should I do? Should I run? Does that mean he's a maniac? I don't know. I doubt he's the one who started it. I don't even know where his seat. Because I would imagine. I'll say this: you have to have a good arm on you to get that a beer cannon or water bottle all the way down to the field. I mean, I don't know if I've ever sat close enough to be able to launch a water bottle onto the field. Honestly, and there's some they get some decent distance, but I don't know if I've ever sat close enough to be able to throw something onto the field. Maybe a couple times, but here at UGA where we're more sophisticated, we don't do that. But that was the Pick'ems. I know they released a new. I imagine the new AP poll didn't change that much. I looked at it, but I don't remember exactly what it says because the AP poll really doesn't matter. What matters is the first college football playoff rankings. So the AP poll has kind of lost some of its luster. Yeah, there wasn't much change inside the top 10 other than LSU getting knocked out of it. Got some new additions. Clemson, for some reason, went out of the top 10. Okay. Let's see. Notre Dame going up 4 just because they beat Navy is kind of insane to me, but they can do whatever they want to do, I guess. I mean, if we want to continue, because look, it's like Notre Dame was overrated. They lost to Northern Illinois, and everyone saw the light, but now they're being overrated again. It's just we need another Notre Dame loss to bring this back down to earth. But I think the top 5 is probably about right. I could make the argument that maybe Miami should be ahead of Ohio State based off of Ohio State's latest performance. But the thing is, Miami, first of all, they played Florida State, who sucks. Second of all, Miami has had some really sus performances. And they honestly should have 2 losses, but I digress. Texas at 6 is fine. I like that they're giving some respect to BYU, putting them at 9. I feel like Iowa State should be getting more respect. Like, why are they going down one when they're undefeated? Why is Indiana not moving up? They're undefeated, and they just beat Washington with a backup. I mean, I don't get that. Is there anyone else? Look at Pitt being 7-0. I do think that might end though this weekend because they face a very good SMU team. Not enough people talking about SMU, by the way. Colorado has entered its way into the top 25. How is Missouri still ranked? Someone answer that question for me. Vanderbilt should still be ranked over Missouri. I don't care what anyone says. Louisville should be ranked over Missouri. How did South Carolina get a vote? Who allowed this? Anyways, as far as Heisman, GNT had a little bit of a slow week against, oh my gosh, I'm having a brain fart. UNLV, right? He had a little bit of a slow week, but I would still put him solidly one in the Heisman discussion. Cam Ward still two, and then Dylan Gabriel at three still. I think some combination of that with a little bit of Travis Hunter in there. I think those are probably going to end up being the four in New York. As far as who win, because they're going to invite Travis to New York unless he gets injured. I mean, it's going to happen. I don't think he'll win. I have a feeling Cam Ward's going to end up winning. And I heard on First Take on ESPN, I forget what day. I think it might have been last week actually, where Stephen A. Smith said that if Colorado gets to 8 wins, Deion should be coach of the year. And I just think it's so disingenuous. I hate stuff like that. I hate that we give him a bump just because he's Deion Sanders. Why does Kurt Signetti at Indiana not deserve it? What he's done has been far more impressive than what Deion's done this season. I don't care what anybody says. What Kurt Signetti has done this season is 10 times more impressive. How about Dan Lanning? What Dan Lanning's done this season has been impressive. Clark Lee at Vanderbilt, I would say he deserves it more. What he's done has been impressive this season. You could consider Mario Cristobal in that discussion. The BYU head coach, I forget his name, he should be in the discussion. But no, Deion, because he got 8 wins. Although we don't even know if he's going to get to 8. But speaking of which, you know what? Why don't we do that? A state of Colorado. Let's see. Colorado Buffs schedule. Let's see. Okay. So they have they have a bye this week. And then they have Texas Tech at Texas Tech. What's their record right now? How many wins do they have currently? Why can't... Okay, so they had North Dakota State first. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they have 6 wins right now. So they just need 2. And they'll probably get 2. Honestly, they might get... Oh, gosh. I'm going to be honest with you. Their last 4 games are all winnable. Can you imagine if Colorado gets to 4 wins, gets to 10 wins? The level of hype around that team will be frightening. Not that the team is frightening. I think any top 10 team would absolutely destroy them. I mean, Texas would drop a bomb on them. Georgia would. Ohio State would. Oregon would. But the Big 12 has just been kind of, in my opinion, the Big 12 has been disappointing. Utah's been a major disappointment. Oklahoma State, major disappointment. Kansas, quite possibly the biggest disappointment in all of college football. Arizona, disappointment. Kansas State's been good, and they beat Colorado. UCF, disappointment. Nebraska beat Colorado. So the problem is the Big 12 has a ton of disappointments. So it's propping up the good Big 12 teams, your Colorados, your Iowa States, your BYUs. Like, do we have any confidence that, let's just assume the Big 12 champion is the 4 seed in the playoff. Do we have any confidence that they'll win a single game in the playoffs this season? Like, let's say it's BYU, right? Let's say BYU's the 4 seed. So you really have to look at who the 5 seed is. Because the 5 seed will play a 12 seed who's a group of five. So let's say the 5 seed is Ohio State. Let's say Oregon wins the Big Ten. Actually, no, it wouldn't be Ohio State. They'd have 2 losses. Let's say it's Oregon. Let's say Ohio State gets their revenge in the Big Ten championship. Oregon has 1 loss, and that's to Ohio State. So let's say they're the 5 seed, and they're facing Boise State, the 12 seed, and they beat Boise State. Do you really have any confidence BYU's beating Oregon? No, you don't. What if Georgia's the 5 seed? No. What if Texas is the 5 seed? No. It's not going to happen. You don't have any confidence in that. And you shouldn't. You shouldn't, because that's also a neutral site. It's not that I have no confidence in that. And if Colorado's that 4 seed, Lord help me if that's the case. It's gonna be the same thing. They're gonna get a bomb dropped on them in the playoff. Now everyone will just glance over that and be like, "Oh my gosh, look at what Deion did." Can you believe also that Stephen A. Smith said that Florida State should have hired Deion Sanders? That Alabama should have hired Deion Sanders? He even said Texas A&M, who has 1 loss out of conference, and they're first in the SEC right now, should have hired Deion Sanders. Have you seen what Mike Elko's doing? Mike Elko also should be Coach of the Year contender over Deion Sanders. And it doesn't help that Deion he makes it hard to root for them. He really does. He always has something to say. And he always is, woe is me. Everyone's coming after me. That's how it's constantly been last season and this season. And I get it. Everyone doubted you. But when when you get asked about Shadur not being a Heisman contender right now, and you have some snide comment because you think Shadur and Travis are the best players to ever exist in the history of time, Shadur is not a Heisman contender. He's not going to be the #1 pick in the draft. He's not going to be the first quarterback taken off the board in the NFL draft. That'll probably be Cam Ward. And look at Shadur's numbers when he doesn't have Travis Hunter. It's fine, it's fine, but fine's not good enough for Heisman. But let me stop ranting. We got a big week this week of college football. Georgia's back off their bye. They'll be facing Florida. That'll be a game in the pick'ems. And I'll probably rant about the Georgia Florida game on Friday. I can't help myself. Florida's one of those teams. When I grew up, it was during like the years of Tebow and all that, and it felt like throughout my childhood until we got Kirby Smart, we just could never beat Florida, no matter how good we were or how bad they were. We just could not, for some reason, beat Florida. So it feels good to be at a point now where it's kind of opposite. They just haven't been good enough to really compete most years against us. But I'll talk more about that game on Friday. It's gonna be a fun slate. I already have my list of games that I'll be doing the picks for. A lot of SEC games on here. Also got Pitt SMU, which is a top 25 matchup. Ohio State Penn State is the big one. I think it's going to be a disappointing game, and I think it's going to be similar to last year. Like I'll admit, I was drinking the Penn State Kool-Aid last year and was sorely disappointed by that team. And So I've kind of woken up to the lie that is Penn State. And I think a lot of people are sipping the Kool-Aid again this year, and it's gonna disappoint you again. Don't sip on the James Franklin Kool-Aid. It always disappoints. Always. Duke versus Miami should be an interesting one. But obviously, a lot of my attention will be on Florida, Georgia. We got Halloween coming up on Thursday, right? Yep, Thursday. I'm not a big Halloween guy. I'm going to be honest, I don't really care about Halloween anymore. I don't dress up for it. My family gets together and we give candy out to kids who come, but that's really it. It's kind of just an excuse to hang out as a family. That's really what it is, if we're being honest. But I hope everyone has a great Halloween. I hope everyone has a great weekend. Be looking out for Friday's episode where I give my game picks, rant about Georgia Florida game. I'll probably rant about Penn State. And yeah, by the way, Louisville Clemson, sneaky, interesting game. Anywho, I'm looking to go undefeated this time, so hopefully that happens. But thank you for listening. I hope you have a great Halloween, and I hope you have a great day.